so weird. We've run out of microphones, so like I'm now hands-free.
Just hands day, just hands day.
Look, and I can still talk and you can still hear me. I feel like Madonna. Right. Welcome to our next panel. This is one of these incredibly self-indulgent moments. Finding Energon. I asked this morning, but I will ask again, do we have any fans of the Unicron trilogy in the audience? And again, of those people, keep your hands up. How many have actually read any of the Dreamwave Unicron trilogy books? Quite a lot of you. I like it. Excellent. As you will know, it came to a little bit an abrupt end, but I thought since we had 3 people who were instrumental in bringing that book together, we would bring them up on stage. So please give a massive hand to Simon Furman, Alex Mill, and Marcel Materi. I like that, just a little bit of extra jazz. So let's start at the beginning, I suppose. This panel is really going to sort of encompass a little bit of just Dreamwave and this comic era because, well, for a start, it was your return to Transformers. Gentlemen, it was, for a lot of you, your first published work. And it was a unique series. So, Simon, I suppose we'll start with you. When did you first become aware and involved in what would become the Armada, the Unicron trilogy?
Well, I mean, I was at the time, I first started working for Dreamwave on War Within, so I was sort of up and running with them and just happy to carry on with that, to be honest. And, you know, the G1 book was running. It had writers, the Armada comic came out, also had a writer, and I was quite happy just to be in my little War Within world, which was fine. But then, but then the writer, I think it was Chris Saraceni, who did the original one, he just didn't want to continue on Armada, and I was asked by Pat Lee whether I would take over writing, and I was happy to do so, even though at the time I don't think I'd seen any Armada cartoon, and I just thought, well, okay, you know, I'm fine, it's Transformers, I'll go with it. And, you know, right away I think I just got in, when I sat down and read the first mini-series, I thought, oh, I like these characters. You know, they're different enough that it feels like it's somewhere we can take it in a slightly different direction. We weren't too bound by the animated show. It was quite different to that in many ways. So yeah, I just thought, great, I'll jump in and do what I do, I hope, and just take it in a new direction. And yeah, you know, rapidly I came to understand that in a way it was the best comic to be on because it had the least oversight of any of them, because it was just in its own little universe bubble, and all the focus was on their Generation 1 comic and to an extent War Within. It freed us up on Armada and then Energon just to tell wild stories that fitted into that universe but weren't necessarily, you know, going to be, there were no limitations, as I'm sure we'll get onto. At some point I just decided I'm going to drop a load of G1 characters into this story. And so yeah, it was just a very sort of liberating, and again, jumping way ahead, you know, I think that when I was working on it with Alex, there was a sort of, we had a real momentum going with it. It just felt exciting, each issue, to, you know, and really frustrating that we never got to right to the end of it.
Yeah. Alex, how did you become involved with Dreamwave? Keep it pinchy.
Well, when I was in college, I had to do a 1-month work placement. So around that time is when Dreamwave was still around, producing comics, and that was something that I was interested in. Originally, I was trying to do a work placement for ILM, but my teacher talked me out of it because he's like, oh, you have to find like housing or something down there too. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So I went for the work placement for Dreamwave, and at that time they had me doing profile images for the More Than BCI Armada book. Basically, I started out doing the alt modes, and then one day I was just waiting for more alt modes to be given to me, like assigned, and I was just drawing like a Binotech character or the alternator's smoke screen, like just for fun. And James McDonough walked by and he's like, oh, what's this? And he's like, oh, you're good at drawing robots. And then later my editor is like, hey, you want to draw some robot profiles for the Armada book? And I was like, yes. And then they gave me a bunch of those. And my work placement was up, and I was like, all right, thanks for having me. And I was like, oh, you're leaving? It's like, we have a book for you to do once you're done school. And I was like, okay. And that's how I got on to Energon.
Fantastic, that's good. I never realised, because Marcelo, we talked yesterday about this. Your first bit of official Transformers artwork was an Armada piece. Alex, yours is exactly the same. So the Unicron trilogy links both of you together as your first
exactly.
work.
But it's funny because at the same time I was doing the Armada packaging, I was contacted by Dreamwave to do the G1 profile book. So that's why my first published work as well. So like, we both started with we actually both started with More Than Meets the Eye, the profile books. That's how we get into this publishing work, like Dreamwave. I think I also might have done something, Simon, for TFCC, some page for the comic book 2004, maybe Transformers Universe. I don't know. Did you roll to those Transformers Universe?
I did some of that stuff for the BotCon comics,
Yeah.
at the time, the 3H ones.
Yeah, for 2-2H. So that's, I think, one of my first published work with Simon, my first thing that I drew some pages. And then after that, you'll come to that thing. To the part,
So Simon, you obviously mentioned there about, so just to give people a rough idea, this was Transformers Armada. It then ran for 18 issues before transitioning to Transformers Energon. You said that you had a lot of freedom on the book, but ultimately the brand, as we know it, would refresh every year. When you were brought on to Armada with issue 7, I believe, did you know that Energon was a thing that was going to be happening?
Yeah, I think we knew that there were at points we were going to have to mirror what was happening with the animated show, that the comic itself would change, otherwise we'd look, out of step with things. And obviously I think they wanted to appeal to the audience that was watching each show. So the plan was always, although we didn't have a definitive issue when I started, that we would transition into Energon and then transition into Cybertron. So it was always meant as a trilogy that would roughly match whichever show was screening at the time.
Yeah. And you're talking about the freedom to write what you want. Famously, Transformers Armada ends with Worlds Collide, as you say, Thunderwing, Scourge, Bludgeon, Dirge, Galvatron, Dirge. It was an interesting choice. All show up. So was that a case then? It was just like, yeah, you can do what you want. You're not beholden to the cartoon. Just go with it as long as you use these elements. In other words, these toys, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had to, like, say, the human cast, we had to mirror the change in the human cast. So, once Kicker came into it, he also had to be in the comic. And I think I always had an eye on where the cartoon show was going, which characters were featured, and the robots themselves, of course, because we can't forget that Hasbro would want to feature those characters. So it was always a case of, well, okay, we'll get to this point where wasn't there a combining Optimus Prime Jetfire or something, and so that's got to feature in it. And so there were there were tent poles that we had to keep going, right, we hit that, we hit that. But in between that, there were no edicts really about what we could or couldn't do, only that, and you know, this sort of conspiracy story that ran through Energon was, I don't think, anywhere in the cartoon show. It was just something that, you know, appealed to me, and this idea that there was a massive conspiracy. But it featured characters like Alpha Quintessence, so it always mirrored, but then it went its own merry way, I guess.
And you know, right off the bat with Armada, one of the first things that has changed right away, which I think, if this was Chris's decision, is that the minicoms could speak. They weren't limited to their beeps and boops, which means they were given character and things like that. One thing on the subject of character, this was, you know, I think a lot of times we forget about this because as Transformers fans, especially over the course of the last 20 years, we've seen the brand reinvented time and time again. But this was genuinely the first proper ground level reboot of the franchise. Beast Wars was an extension of Generation 1, and RID, while it was car robots and it was its own thing, it very much felt in the mold of G1. But the Unicron trilogy was sort of the return of Transformers. Alex, I'm curious from your standpoint, you know, as a fan growing up and, you know, getting to work on these, how difficult was it to be able to start designing and working on these characters in this particular style?
I'd say it was like, well, it was like fresh out of school, so like it's a learning curve there, learning how to do things on, trying to do it one time and make it look good. You want to impress because you want to continue to get work. But I was given an extensive Bible of the Energon cast, so I knew what every character was going to look like, and I was like, oh, when are these guys showing up? Because I really want to draw this guy, like Bulkhead, and I was just like, I want to draw this guy. He looks really cool. So yeah, it was pretty well laid out what I was going to be drawing, and then I just put my own spin on it. But also trying to, at the time, match what they call the house style for Dreamwave, which would have been like inked robots, painted backgrounds, stuff like that, having like sort of an anime feel to it. But I first started out, like the first pages I put in were too much like manga. And they're like, no, you have to draw more of like an American style for the people. And I was like, okay, fine. And then I was just like, trying to find my way doing that because I had practiced doing the manga style more.
Marcelo, when you took over with Energon 30, which ultimately ended up being the last issue, how did that come about? Because you followed Alex, who was in the previous book.
I don't know if Alex was...
I was late.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, it's not easy. I feel I know what it is. Yeah, it's not easy to draw those. Me was one of my first big gig on comics, like this Energon 30. When I got their script, there's a big fight between Scorponok and Galvatron, and I really freak out when I saw that, because I said, I need to follow Alex, it's a big issue, so I said, I need to put like 150 to 100% on mine on that stuff. But as he mentioned, like we are transitioning style, we need to match the in-house style, so like I had a lot of back and forth, like when I submit my page, they got, hey Marcelo, can you change the face of the robots to look like more Batley stuff instead of...
Not Alex Milne.
Because I think Alex also had to do like Batley-ish stuff. That's the thing, like we're doing like those chunky robots, that thing we like to do, like big arms, strong guys, so I was comfortable with that. But like sometimes the faces, they were kind of big on the face. So we need to match the face styles. But other than that, like I think was a great experience. And then like try to figure out how to draw this role, because the anime was different, the cartoon was different, so I had to adjust the style, and also the toys, like everything was different.
Yeah.
So we need to find the balance between cartoon, house style, and then the comics. But I think everyone did a great job. Like I also had to, I don't know if he's been remembered, but like I had to follow those designs he was doing for this page. So I have a big station. There was a fight between Iron Highness and Galvatron, and then I had to figure out how does this station look like, because I don't want to create a station that he was going to be in the issue 31, it's going to be totally different. So I started like, hey guys, can you send me a reference? I need to keep this consistent. I don't want to create everything and then all of a sudden you have 3 different environments.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if Alex had to create something really fast, or you had that thing in mind.
I can't remember.
Yeah, because I know I got a sketch for you, like you have the top views, side views, and then I said, oh, perfect, that's what I need to know how to this thing. So that's the kind of collaboration that I like to keep, that's my way, like I like to keep it consistent, so as many references, as I said, if we've got a lot of reference, things are better to keep this going.
So did you guys collaborate like at all? Did you even know you guys like existed? Because back then, you're still sending pages in via post and things like that.
Well, I worked at the studio.
Okay.
So I was just handing pages in, but I didn't know Marcelo personally or any contact like that. I would go through the editor if they needed something. They'd be like, "Oh, so we need this for the artist that's taking over for you while you get your act together, pull your boots up, get back on time." Which I did, because I pumped out 31 and 32, and I was on 33 when the boom came down.
Yeah. And so Energon runs, and it kicks off with issue 19, runs all the way to 30. It was scheduled to run to 36, yeah, but obviously it infamously ends with issue 30. Simon, when you were conceiving what you were going to do for Energon, you talked a little bit about the grand conspiracy. What was the overall goal you had with Energon?
I mean, I think, you know, as I said in one of the panels yesterday, as soon as you can get Unicron into a story, I'm at my happiest. so it was always building towards this. You know, the 6 issues, 6 issues that didn't happen are very much the reawakening of Unicron, and the conspiracy. You know, you think Alpha Quintessence, you had I forget his name. One of the Autobot councillors was a double agent.
Jetfire, maybe?
Was that Avalon?
Avalon, yes, thank you, yes. Councillor Avalon was working with Alpha Quintessence, and that actually only comes out in issue 31. And then from then on, it's just, when I was, before this panel, I did a quick reread of my scripts and synopses for those last 6 issues, which I have. I have it, as Alex says, up to 33 was scripted, and I have 34 to 36 as a plot. It's mind-boggling how much was going on in those issues. I mean, I was like confused myself, but there was a lot going on, and I think it was a measure of how invested I was, that it wasn't just one storyline, it was about 6 overlapping storylines, building and gathering, and we had Optimus Prime trapped inside Unicron, who was slowly coming back to life. We had, a quintet. We had an alternate universe Quintessa coming into being through a portal. There was a lot going on in that, and I was just, and having such a blast with that series. And in some ways, it hurt more than Age of Wrath that we didn't get to see that, because I could see Alex as an artist coming on issue by issue, and 31 was beautiful, and then the splash page to 32 with Wheeljack, I think, it just, you could see as he was developing each innovation. I thought, this is going to be stunning by the time Oh, yeah, we had the Four Horsemen in there, we had, there was just a lot going on in that storyline.
And yet, despite the fact that there was a lot going on, it never felt crammed. I mean, Megatron doesn't even show up until, 10 issues in. You know, he's not back after being brutally murdered by the Autobots at the end of Armada. So there's so much going on, and I really appreciated that with Energon, was the fact that you really let the new Energon character shine, but you were able to put your own spin on it. And unlike the cartoon, which I guess if people are familiar with the Energon cartoon, you would probably say Ironhide wasn't your favourite character. But you gave him such a tragic backstory and made him this really sympathetic character. The issue with Scorpion was a nice break in the story, like slowed it down for one issue. Was that just because this was a new character you got to play with and build, or?
I mean, I think with all the Armada Energon characters, it was like you could take that G1 archetype, but push it in different directions, give it a different character twist, so they're both familiar and different. So yeah, when you got to someone like Ironhide, there was just scope for, I mean, I always work from sort of character out, so there may be a grand storyline, there may be Unicron, there may be Four Horsemen and everything else, but each issue, I always try and make it as character-centric as possible and as relatable as possible. So yeah, just finding those interesting character quirks, and not to mention the human cast, which I really enjoyed on this. I think somewhat annoying character in the cartoon series, Kicker, but I actually really liked him the way we put him in the comic, and Alexis and Rad. It always felt like a real ensemble book.
Yeah, and it was great that you didn't just cast aside Armada. Those characters came back as older versions of themselves, and you got to experience what had happened with them. And it, again, which is a repeating thing in your work, is relatable female human characters. Most of the characters that you invented were few and far between in the old Marvel days. You were very much focused on the big robots, but most of the characters that you did introduce were female characters. Obviously, the famous one, Verity in IDW, and Alexis really shines in these books. Is there a reason for that? Do you think female human characters work well just against these big giant robots?
I mean, I think any character is interesting, male, female, whatever. But I just always thought that, I liked Verity in Infiltration because I felt, it was a very relatable character. And Alexis, I just thought, again, somewhat marginalised in the TV series a little bit, but, I loved writing her, and I just think I want proactive characters, and that applies to the human cast as well. And Kicker is, would have been utterly instrumental in the finale of Energon. He becomes a living component because he has this Energon channeling ability. And the whole thing is, he becomes part of a massive machine that's going to open up a portal in time and space. So I just wanted to keep the humans as really properly invested in the story, so they don't get sidelined.
Yeah. Marcel, what kind of schedule are you guys running on when you're producing the artwork? So, for anybody who's interested in just the mechanics of comic books, Simon obviously submits the script, that gets approved through Hasbro and all of the channels. When it comes to the artists, what kind of timetable are you guys working with?
I think the regular schedule the guys think about editor is like a page per day. That's the rate the guys think will be the ideal. So we have basically a month and a half to do a whole book.
Okay.
But at that time we were working I think, Alex, are you inked by yourself or someone else is inked?
No, I was somebody else.
Yeah, so we were just responsible for pencils, so we were responsible to do tight pencils. It's not loose pencils, we need to do really tight, because tight mean almost inked, because the guys used to paint over, paint the backgrounds. So that's why time consuming as well. Like we need to be really precise on the line. So we need to keep a schedule like a page per day, but like with the rubber robots, not easy to do a page per day.
Yeah.
Backgrounds, fighting and stuff like that. But yeah, but they usually give a little more time, so a month and a half. So I would know about it like 2 months in advance, and then we need to plan the schedule. But like as I said, like I freak out on this comic. Then I try to rethink pages every time, and then I didn't like this page, I'm gonna draw again. I didn't like this one, I'm gonna draw again. And then I send it over to the editor. Sometimes I think they send. I usually send pencils to Simon, copy with Roger maybe. And then sometimes Simon says, "Hey Marcelo, I have some notes here." Sometimes I misunderstand some parts, so that there's a page of fighting that I misunderstood the position of Galvatron, and then Simon give a note, and then I had to fix that. But like it's a collaboration team, so like it was great. This before, so the process was sketches. I usually send sketches and then pencils. I usually send pencils for approval. After pencils, I was supposed to finish and ship to FedEx because I need to ship the physical pieces to be inked. So I used to live in Brazil, so I had to plan. Okay, the FedEx truck is coming tomorrow morning, so I need to finish this page by midnight before 11 a.m. The truck knocked my door and say, "Hey, I need this page by next day."
Yeah.
And then like we had to plan all those schedules. Like different than Alex, I was not in-house, so for them it was easy. Like you finish page, you just hand it to the intake. It would be different.
I used to feel really sorry for Alex on our run because Energon had these swarms of Terracons, and it's so easy to write, oh, and then this massive horde of Terracons descend on New York or whatever, and I just thought,
It really was as well, though, wasn't it? There was a slow build. Guido did, I want to say, up to issue 26, I think. Alex, was your first one?
You mean Joe, eh?
Oh no, Joe did one before you, didn't he? Yes.
He did a couple.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he did 22, 23, and 24, and 25.
Also,
I know that Megatron cover, like first revealed Megatron, that's Joe.
So, in terms of you coming onto the book, as Simon says, I didn't even do that intentionally. When you first come onto the book, it is literally all the gloves are off. There's just a war going, and you're having to draw all of these Insecticons in New York City and things like that, because this is where the Terracons have finally started. Were you always used to just drawing lots of robots on the page? Because I feel like that's become your signature style almost, is how many robots can I squeeze in?
I guess now that I think about it, like I was broken in by Simon. So I'm just going to draw tons of robots here.
Yeah.
But I remember when I came on for issue 26 there, the opening scene is Optimus Prime at the, not the World Trade Center, the UN. And there's like a crowd of people and helicopters flying around and your background, like trying to find reference for it at that time. Some of the internet wasn't as great, and I had limited computer access, so I'm like trying to find how to draw this area. Yeah, it was wild.
Yeah. So, it ends with issue 30, but as we know, as you mentioned it a little while ago, issue 31 and 32 were done. Or it was penciled.
Well, 31 was so done, I think it was at the printers, possibly when Dreamwave closed their doors.
From what I remember, what I was told, it was a week away from print.
Was it? Right, yeah. I mean, it was all coloured, lettered, everything, you know, it was a book that so nearly came out. So, yeah, very frustrating, but nice that we have it all in colour and lettered still. So, but yeah, I mean, it was tragic, and like I say, Alex's pencils for 32 and 33 were stunning as well, so great shame that we couldn't get those out.
Yeah. And this was, so was anybody here on Friday when we talked about how we managed to rebuild War Within? Yep. So, yeah, so thanks to Simon, give him a big round of applause as well, because he, I cannot tell you just how thrilled I was when this brown envelope showed up at my house, and it was just full of all of these, well, printouts of scanned emails that were sent to you 20 years ago. But a lot of it was this stuff that you see on the right-hand side here. So this is the opening page to Energon 31. Now, some of these pages have appeared online, and they do appear in full colour. The reason that I've put this one on here is because it just gives you an insight as to what the process was. So Simon, what were you doing with this page here?
Well, I mean, Dreamwave were good in as much as they looped me into all stages of the process, and I wasn't really used to that. Back in the Marvel days, you would just see the comic when it came out, but Dreamwave were much more, you know, it's like, well, here's the pencils, and at that point, I think I started doing what I called a dialogue pass, because when you see the pages, you realise that you can dispense with some dialogue altogether. You can maybe just reshape who's talking and in what order to fit the artwork better. So I would just literally extract all the dialogue from my Word script and do a second document, and then start to do place-ups on photostats of the artwork. Each one numbered so that the letterer knew exactly who's speaking in what order. And that's something I still do to this day. Wherever I can, I will do a second pass, because, you know, once you see the art, and often, you know, this is a good case in point, because you don't want to cover up too much of this artwork if you can help it.
Yeah. Like Marvel Ways, right?
Yeah.
When Stanley used to get the page done by Jack Kirby, and then he said, okay, let's put the dialogues where to make everything blend together the nicest way as possible.
Yeah, well, Marvel worked in that plot style where it wasn't a full script at all, so the artist would break down 3 pages, and then the writer would get it back and go, oh, okay, that's what he's done with it, which was a little different to this, I guess, but still the same principle that, you know, it gave you a second crack at your own dialogue, and like I say, with the pictures telling the story, you could just take out a load of dialogue exposition.
Yeah. And here is just a small sample of issue 31 that came out. So just here on the left-hand side, we've got the completed page of issue 1. There's a lovely double-page spread from the comic, and then a page later on, I think it's about page 11 or so, just really showing that how close this book was, issue 31, to actually being finished. Again, thanks to Simon, who managed to keep hold of some of these images over the years. Now, the problem that we've got with 31 is that even though it was completed and it was finished, we don't have access to the completed issue. I've begged and nagged and all of that stuff. Alex, you don't have these files.
These were done in-house, right? These were done in-house.
Yeah,
so,
like the color stuff is all
so
done.
products belong to these guys, yeah. Different than my case, like I have some originals because they ship it back to the artist, but I think in this case, probably everything was in-house.
Yeah, and you've got some of the pages actually.
Yeah. That's what I see, a couple of pages I have in my folder.
Yeah.
I'd like to see. But those pages are beautiful. It's funny because you see the 4 Horsemen. A really quick note, I was about to draw the package for those guys, for the Dynabot, for the Rhinox, Terrorsaur, but I didn't know they were the 4 Horsemen until I saw the comic. I said, oh, that's nice.
So, the question was then, can we do what we did with War Within issue 31. Thanks to Simon, we have managed to get our hands on the full issue. So we've got everything. I've spoken with Alex, and thanks to the pair of them. Now, we haven't had time to do it for the convention. We've been a little busy. But given the fact that this Dreamwave Odyssey that I've been on started at Minicon Reading last year, it feels only appropriate that at Minicon Reading this year, we will release issue 31 fully lettered so that you can read it. Big thanks to Alex and big thanks to Simon. It goes without saying, obviously, the end of Dreamwave was upsetting. Nobody got anything for this. This is purely just for preservation purposes. But we will go in, just like we did with The War Within, use these pages as a guide to get the text in. Simon, thankfully, still has the scripts, so we'll be able to put that out. That seems pretty cool, right? Then we have 32. That's page 1. That's the last page. We've got all 32 as well. So we're not just going to release one book at Reading, we're going to release 2. And again, Alex, Simon, it's really good that we're able to bring this to life. Alex, looking at these pages, do these bring back any memories that are nice working on these books?
Yeah, like when I look at them, I'm just like, I wish I had seen them in print.
Yeah.
all colored up, finished.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the colouring thing is a question that we do get asked a little bit about these. If you were here on Friday, you would have heard John Paul Beauvais, who coloured the page from War Within issue 5 for us, the shockwave image. The difficulty with colouring this is that, unfortunately, we are working off email scanned photocopies. So the detail is unfortunately lost a little bit. The lines aren't clean enough on the copies that we have to really be able to go in and colour it. Not only that as well, but colouring takes a lot of time. And we don't have, well, we do have a colourist. Andrew Turnbull can do pretty much anything, but he keeps telling me no. So he'll letter the pages up. But yeah, the good news is, at Reading, we will release issue 31 and 32 for you. If anybody is not going to be at Reading, don't worry about it. We will make it public as well. This isn't just a case of, oh, you need to be at Reading for it. No, this book will go out, again, for preservation. And, I couldn't believe this, somebody came to me in the corridor. They printed issue 4 of War Within.
Yeah. Well, I asked him whether he could do one for me, please.
I was looking through it and I was like, this is why you don't print them. You know, the dialogue's all blurry and stuff. But fully readable, things like that. How does it feel, like, 20 years later, being like, oh yeah, that book's coming out finally?
Well, it's just like, oh no, that artwork is 20 years old. It's horrible.
That is not horrible. That is great. Yeah. All right then, redraw it, Alex.
Challenge accepted.
How many scripts have we got? We got to 33, didn't we?
We've got the script for 33, and then only plot for the last 3 issues.
Yeah. And Alex, you did work on 33, didn't you?
I was starting it.
Yeah, you were starting.
I had the cover done.
Okay.
And I had like most of the layouts done for it.
Yeah, but no further than that before. Yeah.
We still have the layouts anywhere? No.
Maybe, I don't know. Like they might be in the box.
There's a big stack of something. But yeah. So, we'll be doing that. Simon, let's just quickly talk then about Energon and ultimately where it was going. Spoilers for issues 31 and 32, but you know, that's fine. What was the overall plan then? What was the end goal? Because I know you talked about this a little bit on your blog and things like that in the past.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you can still find my WordPress blog out there with all my little sort of posted plot stuff for Energon. I think I put the whole thing up there at one point, so it is available, and at some point I will bring script packs for the Energon conclusion to one of these. But yes, but otherwise, it was all building towards the reawakening of Unicron, which was something that Alpha Quintessent didn't want, so was trying to sabotage. There was Optimus trapped inside Unicron. Megatron was mixed up in this as well. Like I say, it was multi-stranded at this point. But, you know, the finale was going to be the destruction of Unicron and the opening of a black hole in space that everyone think, oh great, you know, it's the end of that, but we're all safe now. But Cybertron was on the event horizon of this black hole and was going to be pulled in. And that was really the setup for our Transformers Cybertron series that never was.
And did you give any consideration to what Cybertron might have looked like in your head?
You know what, I think by then, other than obviously we would have laced in any appropriate characters, we were doing our own thing in such a way that it was almost irrelevant by that point what the cartoon series was going to do with Cybertron. It was just a name. It was going to be called it was going to change its title, but we would have carried on very much in the vein of our Armada, our Energon.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you guys have any relationship with Hasbro, like closely? Like Hasbro just sending paperwork or Bibles to you guys? Just, okay, these are the characters that we have for the show, or?
I mean, I'm guessing that Dreamwave had those sort of character references and things.
Yeah, like we had art Bibles sent to us.
Yeah. So notes from Hasbro saying, oh, this is the character that you guys can use or not, or they didn't have this enough control, like, you know?
I think sometimes we had just the toy range, we knew what the toy range was going to be, and there was always a slight, well, include the toys, which is fair enough. It's, that's the cast you're dealing with. So, yeah, but yes, I'm sure that there were proper official Hasbro character reference sheets and possibly turnarounds. I don't know whether it was as detailed as that.
Did you guys have it for Cybertron? Did you guys have it for Cybertron?
Oh no, I don't think we'd seen anything for Cybertron.
Well, that's not true. I saw some of this stuff for Cybertron when I went down with Pat Lee, Roger Lee, and Joey to Hasbro in Rhode Island. We had like a meeting there, everything, and they gave us a character Bible to look at. And we were like just talking about like plans for the future at the time.
Plotline and stuff like that, like not much.
Yeah, like there's saying like how they're happy with like the look of the artwork, but I don't know what they were really saying there because I'm sure there were some odd feelings about like payment structures going on that Dreamwave owed money to Hasbro, like royalty fees. So
this might be a bit of a divergence and stuff like that, but I've always wondered if the reason that Dreamwave ended so unceremoniously was because Hasbro just pulled the license right at the last minute rather than them collapsing in. It's a difficult question to ask.
I think there were multiple.
I think there's multiple reasons, but I think that the business did fold. Like, because couldn't pay your rent on the building for the studio, couldn't like pay your employees and stuff. So like creditors wanted their money. So that's what that did.
I mean, I think the slightly frustrating thing for us creators was we weren't given any kind of content, so we were just crashing through our deadlines, producing scripts, producing art, when, you know, it must have been well known that these things weren't going to ever see print, that was the annoying part of it for us, that, you know, we were still working flat out at that stage.
Yeah.
But we were hearing rumours, rumbles, you know, there was an early warning when I think James McDonough and Adam Patek sort of quit staff and stopped writing.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that. And then some emails started running around because we're not at the office. Like me, at least me and Simon, we're probably not close by the guys to see what's happening. Alex probably have more.
Yeah, I saw some of the offices being packed up.
Wow.
Yeah, because Chris will, sorry, not Chris Saracini, but James McDonough and Adam Patek, they were on staff as well, weren't they? And they were editing their own books, I think. Yeah. So when all that happened. So were you guys, Marcel and Simon, when everything was starting to blow, were you just getting all of your updates from like comicbookresource.com and things like that?
I remember I received an email about a lawsuit. Yeah, I was living in Brazil, saying, how can I handle this thing from here? Like, it was 20 years ago, like, I barely speak English at that time. I said, okay, how can I handle a lawsuit against Dreamwave from Brazil? I remember that I received some paperwork. I think all the guys that are Dreamwave was owing money, they received this kind of pack. I don't know, maybe? I don't know.
Okay.
My case.
You know, we were operating in the dark a bit, but we were getting these rumours and rumbles, and also we weren't getting paid.
Yes.
You know, the money had stopped coming in, and it was all, you know, and we weren't getting contact, you know, we weren't in contact with the Lees, and then, you know, it literally was a phone call out of the blue in the run-up to Christmas, thanks for that.
That's true.
Pat Lee spoke to me over the phone and just said, I said, well, what's going on? It's like, well, we're closing the doors. And it's like, you know, my first question was, how long have you known this? And, you know, it was a lot of prevarication, but I think they knew way ahead of when they told us.
Yeah, because as we talked, several months in terms of scheduling, the fact that we know that we have 2 full issues, things like that. This was obviously building for quite a while. But fortunately, we'll be able to get the books out. And despite the fact that it did end in such a bleak note, it's good to know that there was this alternative take out there of the Unicron trilogy. I'd just be curious to before we wrap this up, just from each of you, just your time working on Energon and you know, just on this brand in general at this time. What positive takeaways do you have from that, Marcel?
I think there's a lot of positive stuff happening. Even though we talk about those sad things that happen because it's business, if you don't make money, things don't move forward. And then I think for me personally, as a professional, was a turning point when I started working with the comics and then try to make my comics look better. And at the same time, doing what the clients wanted, that Hasbro and Dreamwave. So I think I learned a lot at that time. Like, I learned how to speed up my process, I learned how to work with writers, how to work with linkers. So as a professional, I think I grew up a lot. And I think that's the thing that we need to come up with Dreamwave. Dreamwave was trying to do something cool. Like, business-wise, bad decisions sometimes are made, like it happens. Those are kids at that time. Those are they're not like Image Comics. Those are artists running a studio and try to do what they think was. But from my side, I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot from Alex. I learned a lot from Simon. Like, that was my first experience for another country, and then I just have good memories. And even Aaron Archer was joking with me, said, yeah, we just hired you because Pat Lee was late. So thanks, Pat Lee, because you were on by Hasbro, so that's his fault. I said, okay, thanks, Pat. Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Alex?
Well, the positive experience I take away from it is, like, that was my start.
Yeah.
So that's how I got into this. So I'll always be grateful for that.
I mean, I think it's worth remembering that although it ended badly, possibly without Dreamwave, we wouldn't have had an IDW, we wouldn't have had a Skybound. You know, they really injected the life back into Transformers comics and probably the brand at the time. You know, there was that retro wave of things. I mean, it all started with that Pat Lee illustration of Transformers for a Wizard special.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it just hit us zeitgeist at the time. It really was, you know, I do wonder whether we'd be quite where we are today without a Dreamwave, or whether, you know, whether the license would have got picked up and re-energized. And they did inject that first wave of fans turned professional enthusiasm into the comics, which, you know, back in the Marvel days, we were just creators writing for a Transformers comic, one of possibly many, but these were the fans grown up and creating the comics, so it came with much more energy and scope, I think.
Yeah.
And you can see that when you're going to the conventions, you could see this energy around this Dreamwave, well, new reveals and everything was flowing. It was great. It was great. Like, I think it was the Transformers Renaissance in the comics, like Dreamwave. They bring back the brand in a way that we have never seen. Like we didn't have any Transformers robots in this guy comics. Like then when Dreamwave hit with these books, like the new style was coming, and then I think our style evolved through Dreamwave. Like my style evolved through the Dreamwave style.
Yeah.
I think like that's how we started, how I developed, and then I have good memories. I think I have more good memories than bad memories. I think that's.
There was a great atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, they were so enthusiastic. You know, when the few times I visited the offices in Toronto, it was, you know, the buzz was infectious. You know, the enthusiasm, the energy. It was a very sort of creative time for me, and again, it re-energized my career in Transformers comics.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, listen, we're about out of time now, but like I say, just remember, if you're coming to Reading, you'll be the first ones to be able to sit down and read issue 31 and 32. The bad news is, if you've not read the preceding 10 issues, eBay is your friend, I guess. Simon, have you got any with you? Yeah, so you're going to have to track those ones down. Sadly, been out of print for about 20 years now. But they are out there. But I just want you to give our three panelists a big round of applause. And again, a big thank you to Alex and Simon for letting us do this in Reading. Thank you all. We will be back very shortly. Thanks.